So, Arcturians, my first question would be, can you give us a current energies update on where humanity is at in this now?
Humanity is at confusion. And confusion isn't necessarily a bad thing. Confusion can be a good thing, because when people are able to admit that they're confused, because there's so many different things coming in from so many different places within your now. And if people can admit that I'm confused, then they won't get scared, because they know, okay, it's just confusion. Not the first time in my life I've been confused. I can be confused again. I know that in all these other times in my life when I was confused, eventually I figured it out. And so if you can all just remember to know that you are not the only person that's confused. Therefore, what you can do is embrace that confusion. Because if you embrace the confusion, you can relax into it and you don't have fear of it. It's just that something is changing and people don't know exactly what is changing, how it's changing, when it's changing. But most of the people have a pretty good idea that something is changing. It's almost like it forces you to bump up your thinking, to open up your mind, to be aware that something is different. And it's not just you, it's all around you. There are things that are different. And there are challenges that many people have no idea. What are they going to do with these challenges? How are they going to face these challenges? How are they going to move through these challenges? And we, the Arcturians, the first thing that we say is that you do it together. You gather your peeps. You gather the people that you know, the people that you trust, the people that you care for. You talk about it. You comfort each other. You converse with each other. And you realize that as you talk about it, it's not so scary. It's when you don't talk about it that you try to push it aside and you try to pretend it's not occurring. That's what's scary.
I can definitely understand why that would be, especially with all of the injustices that are happening to people of color every single day, and along with the different changes in our political system, just like you were talking about in our previous recording. And I would actually love to ask a question in that it seems like the intensity is amping up so much because it's just to get to the point of clearing. I know we have a while to go, but it seems like things have to get intense in that darkest night in order for that dawn to really shine through. So I really appreciate that message of getting comfortable in the confusion and getting comfortable with ourselves and how we react to what's happening in the world around us, and to make sure that we are connecting with others to get that support in order for us to receive and to give that back too.
Yes, and also connecting with our higher selves and connecting with Gaia, connecting with the planet. Because if you look at the big picture of this and you go back to where this all started long ago, and taking on that responsibility of being caregivers of the planet. And for me, Sue, that's especially in my face because I'm in California and fires. So fires burn down the old, but it leaves an opening for the new. And such courageous people that go in and fight those fires. So there is a lot of courage, a lot of bravery, and people, we the Arcturians, see that Many of the people have found ways to not allow themselves to go into fear. They're trying to make a decision based on something that feels strong and caring and loving. And they're doing well. They're being courageous. The humans are being very courageous.
It makes sense why this sense of courage is really coming up in a lot of people right now, because with change, you can either meet that with fear or you can meet that with courage. And sometimes you have to be courageous enough to look that fear in the face. And it's not just looking at it, but it's also feeling it too. And as we connect more with others, with our higher selves, then we start to change the planet herself, because we are a part of Gaia. And so every being, every human, every plant, every animal, we all hold an energetic signature on this beautiful, beautiful being that we call our home. And so when we change energetically, that transmutes, there's that word again, it transmutes the planet. And so think about that collective kind of ability, that collective potential. If every single person were to use more of their brain power, were to think with their heart and not just their minds, and to use the heart and mind together, how much of a beautiful change that would make.
Yes, very often things have to fall apart before we can actually put them back together again. Because when it falls apart, you see all the weak links. Well, that was a weak link, that was a weak link, that was a weak link. So when we put it back together, we can say, wait, that was a weak link. We need to change that, and we need to change that, and we need to change that. But we won't know what we need to change until we go forth and have the courage to do whatever we can do and find out what is effective and what is not. There is definitely a lot of learning that is occurring within this now. Because so many things seem like they're just not getting taken care of on Earth, that the leadership that's there now isn't really providing the people what they need. And so they are going inside themselves. And when they go inside of themselves, that takes them up above themselves. And above themselves is their higher dimensional self. Everybody has a higher dimensional self. Everybody has a third dimensional self, which is your daily life. Your fourth dimensional self, which is the you that is creative and curious and awake and aware. And you have your fifth dimensional self. And your fifth dimensional self is your galactic self. And I know when Danny and I first met, we got started on that, about the galactic selves and about the fall of Atlantis, and because this is kind of like the fall of Atlantis. But the fall of Atlantis was the ending of a way of being, so that a new way of being could come in.
Well, it's actually really interesting that you say that, because where we're at this point, the age of Aquarius, that whole transition, this is bringing that time of Atlantis actually full circle. So it's us basically in almost the same situations. I mean, it's a little bit of a different kind of way of living, but at the same time, not really. We have a lot of the same challenges that were present during those first incarnations that I'm sure people listening might have their own perspectives on, that they might want to share in the comments or might want to share with each other. And it's really interesting to see these parallels, because if we have been through these challenges before, then we're able to get through them and we know how to do this. But that how is something that we find within, just like you were saying. Getting to the core of yourself, understanding that you have a higher self and you are your higher self is something that is so vital when we are going into these challenges in such courageous ways.
And many people are having challenges, which we, the Arcturians, call initiations. And these initiations are finding the courage within to remember that there are other frequencies of reality, and that you, all of you, resonate to all of those higher frequencies. Right now, we're talking third dimensional self to third dimensional self. But when we meditate or when we're being creative, very often we find that we are talking to our fourth dimensional self. And our fourth dimensional self is our creative self, and the one that wants to know more and learn more and be more creative and be a part of something that is new and that is happening. And then we can go into our fifth dimensional selves. It is the fifth dimensional frequency of our multidimensional self that are now in starships that are cloaked, because there's not a lot of humans that are ready for it, but the humans that are ready will be able to see them.
That shows us that we are more than our physicality. We're more than our bodies. Our energy bodies are just as much as part of us as our toes, our fingers, our eyes physically. And that's an important thing to remember, that we are not just physical. We're both physical and non-physical, and we are combining both now to help out Gaia.
Yes, and we are using our courage to allow ourselves to remember other incarnations when we were fully aware that reality is multidimensional. As more and more people remember to look in, they will also remember, while they're looking in, to make sure they look up into the higher frequencies, not just of reality, but up into the higher frequencies of their own galactic self. We, the Arcturians, say to all of you, as each of you learn more about the higher frequencies of reality, we are all here, the Galactics are all here to assist you to share this information in a way that humans can receive it. Now, we could bring our ship and land it, but not a lot of humans would receive that well. There is not a high enough frequency of most humans' awareness within this now, but it is moving up very quickly, very quickly.
And something that I would say with being able to write down that information and share it is that sometimes you're sharing stuff energetically. So sometimes if the information that you get is healing information, or if it's information about your higher self or about your past lives, sometimes just carrying around that energetic signature after just being able to write that down and see it impacts people around you, because you respond to life differently. And eventually you might even have some people say, what's your secret? Like, what has changed? What has shifted within you? And then that's when some magical connections can really start to happen.
You know, I've been doing private sessions, and I have lots of people want to talk to their higher self. There are more and more people that are finding the inner courage to believe what they dreamt about, what came into as a meditation, what they read in a book somewhere, or that somebody told them, that there's this new energy field of what we, the Galactics, would call awareness, of your higher dimensional self. And for so long, humans have been locked into the limitations of their third dimensional self. Recently, more and more people have gone into their fourth dimensional self, and that they are feeling more creative, more open to new things, more able to think about something that maybe they don't want to tell other people about, but they do want to think about it. And then when you go into your fifth dimensional self, that's when you start remembering being on your ship. That's when you start remember that there are other realities. And it is so wonderful to get to that fifth dimensional time of reality and space of reality. It is so wonderful to have even a brief experience of that, because it gives you hope that we are not alone, that there are higher dimensional beings, and they are buzzing around Gaia, and they are protecting us. We are being protected.
That's such a wonderful reminder, because it is so easy not to feel safe nowadays. I mean, not just externally, but even going within, that can be a little scary, because it's undiscovered territory. It's known territory because it's you, but it's not always known by you in the third dimension, because our consciousness is focused on, what, 10% of our brains usually, typically. Yeah. Enough to get us through our jobs, to take care of our families, to take care of ourselves. And then when you set aside that time, and at the same time, at the same place, then you are opening yourself up to new information. And information isn't always something written down or like memorized. It can also be feelings. Emotions are information. And yes. What I've gotten from you, the Arcturians, and is definitely the Pleiadians as well, is that emotional energy is just as informative and just as descriptive as any kind of good book or paragraph could be. So maybe you'd like to touch on that a little bit.
Yes, that's a wonderful thing to touch on, and we're happy that you brought that up, that you, the humans of planet Earth, are not alone. And in fact, you, the humans on planet Earth, are at the cusp of great change. People need to go into their darkness, which is their fears and their sorrows and the feelings of, oh, I can't, or oh, I shouldn't, their doubts. They have to go in there. They have to go in there and say, okay, that's enough of that. I don't want to do that anymore. That isn't who I am anymore. I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to doubt things. I want to give myself permission to believe this new energy field that's coming into me, and these dreams that I'm having, and these meditations that I'm having. I am ready to believe that they are real, and that I'm moving beyond that 10% of my physical brain and moving into higher frequencies that are available once we activate more of those synaptic junctions on our brain. What if you had a fancy car and you only put 10% of the pressure on the pedal? It wouldn't go very fast, would it? It would go slow. But if you say, I'm going for it, then it's like, whoa, what came in? And write it down, call your friends, make it real, bring it into your daily life. Don't forget it, because it is your higher self, your fifth dimensional self, talking to your third dimensional self. And your fourth dimensional self stands in between and says, okay, third dimensional self, open up. And your fifth dimensional self says, I'm ready. As soon as you're opening, I've got some great stuff to tell you.
So the first question here is, I would love to hear the Arcturian perspective in authenticity and relationships, friends in this new frequency and paradigm shift that 2020 brings. How to interact from our authentic selves and stay balanced is the question.
To the Arcturian, there is nothing else. A relationship is based on authenticity, and authenticity is the core root of a relationship. So, and relationships are a way that you could really see if you're being authentic. Mm-hmm. And you can't lie to yourself, especially if it's an intimate, real intimate, because that person knows you. And if you try to like play it, that person will say, no, we need to talk here. And hopefully, and please do, because you don't want to have a surface relationship. You want to have a real relationship where if the person you're in a relationship says, wait a second, let's go over that again. You wait a second and you go over it again.
Wonderful. Okay, well, we will go ahead and move on to the next question. The next question asks, when will I meet my Arcturian family or remember meeting them on the ship? And when will I be able to channel them?
It's not about the when, it's about the how. And it's about the absolute knowingness that that energy does not come to you, it comes through you. Because this is a gift that is only given to the people that can pass it on. And that's the whole point of it. And it's a gift for those who are not having a selfish, will you please help me get that new car? You know, the higher beings don't care about new cars. They don't care about that. That's not their reality. And one of the really good things about connecting with the higher beings is that you get a higher perspective on reality, because they're talking about their starships, they're talking about what's happening on a planetary level, they're talking about how humanity is going through a reincarnation of the state of being humanity. And these are things that people only talk about when they feel safe. And then they have this novel thought that, you know what, I can do this. And before I didn't think I could, but I think I can now. And then they find out they can.
So it sounds like we have to get to the core of ourselves, and then once we find something that resonates, not to brush it off or be like, no, it can't be like that. I'm not seeing it how I'm thinking I would see it. It's more about, oh, wait a minute. That heart is giving me a message. And that's kind of like a breadcrumb to see what comes forward. Is that right?
Yes. That there is no right or wrong way to have interdimensional communication. And just like each physical person in their physical life, they have different kinds of communication. So why would that be different if you're having an interdimensional communication?
All right, we have one more question before we close out today. And that question is, how do we assist in the shift to New Earth in the highest way possible?
The highest way possible is that 100% you are doing it for Gaia. You are doing it for the Earth. It goes back to that frequency of consciousness that is limited when people are doing something for themselves. And in order to get into the higher frequencies of consciousness, where you can actually make a difference, first you have to love yourself. You have to love yourself enough to know, wow, did I think that? Wow, that's pretty heavy stuff. Where did I get that? Well, you got it from yourself. You got it from your own higher self. And just pat yourself on the back and say, hey, higher self, I'm going to put aside a certain time, and I'm going to go to that certain place at that certain time, And I'm going to make it a habit because I really enjoy talking with my own higher dimensional self.
Sounds like the best way to be helpful is to have that developing connection with your higher self and to exude that energy out. That is where we get the guidance of where to go and when and how is from within first.
Yes, absolutely. It's the guidance within and above and allowing them to intermingle and to ground that intermingling into the core of planet Earth. Because all of the awakened ones have come into incarnation during this time of massive planetary transition. And it's like, come on, come on, come on down, every one of you. We need you, we need your help. And so we came. And mostly we came as infants. We came through our mothers and we went through the process. And some people came in really quickly, but they kind of touch in because they didn't quite leave their galactic self, but they came in to give you a dream, or they came in to change or something, to help people to be aware of something, and then they go back to their ships. But that does happen. If it's totally vital, it will happen.